our people are the people who look and think like you.
Oh, hello from Mickey and from me, from Castle Goring. And without further ado, going to plunge right in because I have a lot of ground to cover and I want to cover as much of it as possible. Some of it is very entertaining and unfortunately some of it is rather serious. But I think a mix makes for a good thing. So the splendidly named Lebedev Raskolnikov says, Dear Lady C, is it true the Megalaya Malignants were invited to Sandringham for Christmas and turned it down? Why would the royal family do that? Thanks. Let me put it this way. All the royal family, starting from the Queen all the way down, are desperate to get some of that gold dust that Meghan has in such splendiferous quantity. And they figure if she's nearby them, some of that gold dust will rub off and they'll become really important. Yeah, they'll become people of quality. They'll become wonderful people. The whole world's going to love them the way they love Meghan. My understanding is that all members of the royal family are asked to what has customarily been the pre-Christmas luncheon at Buckingham Palace. Let's see if it takes place at Buckingham Palace or if it shifts to Windsor. But traditionally, all members of the royal family are asked to that. You notice where these stories emanate from, don't you? That they've been asked to Christmas at Sandringham. But the stories are not emanating from Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace or Sandringham. They're emanating from Sunshine Sacks. Oh, sack full of sunshine. The sun is shining from the orifice upon which I am sitting. But then I'm not very good at squatting, but I am good at sitting. I think it's very difficult to turn down an invitation that you actually haven't received, but I think it's very easy to fabricate an invitation that you haven't received and to spread the word that you're turning it down. You notice this invitation for Christmas has been hovering in the air over the Americas for the last few months. I mean, it really is actually disgusting that Meghan and Harry and their PR people will do anything and everything and come up with any and every cock and bull story to keep them in the news. Are they going to be asked to Sandringham? Are they going to go? Are they not going to be asked? Are they not going to go? Of course, the narrative has never been, are they not going to be asked? It's always been, are they going to be asked and will they go? Well, we can be absolutely sure that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex do not condescend to mix with the rabble like the other members of the royal family. They mix with truly elevated people like Ellen DeGenerated and Oprah the Farce. Joanne Avis says, Lady C, do you think it's possible that the positive sites that support Meghan Markle are possibly employees of hers hired to put positive comments on sites? I think it's very likely. I think it's very likely. I think it's most likely at 102 remove, but I think it's very likely. Just as I know as a fact that this site is haunted by some of her people. I know their names. Occasionally I entertain myself by making comments to them. You know, why not? I mean, they're just facile, puerile and putrid. So yes, do I think so? Yes. I think there is no stone that creature will leave unturned to promote herself. None. Not one stone. And obviously, they're going to need to have control over the narrative. And if they're paying people to interfere with other sites, it's not a far stretch to envisage them paying people to be positive about them. It's the oldest trick in the book, and I'll tell you something, where it shows that it's happened is on any of the books she's written. And also any of the books anybody else has written that do not accord with what she says. For instance, my book, a whole host of the negative comments of variations of maybe 5 of the people that they employed to post rubbish on Amazon. Would I even condescend to get it taken down? No. Why bother? Alex Orff says, Lady C, I love watching you and never miss a video. Thank you, Alex Orff. I've been reading that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge plan a US visit in 2022 and will be staying with the Harkles in Montecito. Lucky William and Catherine. My God, they will finally have a ribbon. Oh, gosh. I find it hard to believe. Why, aren't you a firm member of the Flat Earth Society, my dear Alex Orff? I mean, everybody knows the Earth is flat. Everybody. And everybody knows that anything taken from space that shows it's round is doctored. It's called misinformation. Don't ask me. Ask the Aspen Institute or Harry and Meghan. Why would they do this? Your opinion on this is highly regarded and respected. Thank you. Let me put it this way. On royal tours, there's usually a shed load of staff, and they usually stay in official accommodation. Occasionally, they will stay with friends if the friends' establishments are grand enough. Let us see if William and Catherine stay with the Duke and Duchess of Judas in Iscariot land, because I doubt very much that they are going to be minded to do so, unless something changes and it is in the interests of the monarchy for them to do so, at which point they will turn over a new leaf. At the moment, I don't think they've reached that part of the story yet. You notice all these stories emanate from Harry and Meghan's camps. Anything, everything to keep themselves at the forefront of the world's attention. It actually is sick. I don't know if you find it sick, but I actually feel it is truly sick. I think we're dealing with deeply disturbed, deeply sick individuals who have no respect for anything or anyone except their objectives. Heather Sparks says, Lady C and Mickey, Heather Sparks sends love for you. Give me a proper look. Mickey says, I'm chilling, I can't be bothered. I never miss an episode. Thank you. Question. Compared to previous pictures of Madame on boats with Harry, etc., do you think she has had a breast reduction? When women are lactating, their breasts are seen as much larger. Look at Madame in her red Jezebel dress. I value your opinions. Well, in the red dress, because one must always dress like a tart if one is going to be celebrating the sacrifices that veterans gave for their nations. After all, how else would one dress? Certainly not with modesty and decorum. Meghan's bust line, if you look at the photographs, has been a variable feast. It's been up and it's been down. Recently, it's been down. In that red dress, I did say what God has forgotten. Woman stuffs with cotton. Well, they obviously had run out of cotton wool in New York and New Jersey because there wasn't enough cotton wool to actually plump out those two little, well, I suppose they would have looked like very badly fried eggs on a hot pavement had we been able to have seen them. So yes, my understanding is that she's had bust enhancements and bust reductions. What is really interesting here, though, is that she made the point to Ellen. Remember her good friend Ellen? You know, that wonderful interview where the two of them were just showing how wonderful, down-to-earth and marvellous and natural and authentic they both are. She made the point that Lily is teething at 4 months. Babies don't normally start to tease until about 6 or 7 or even 8 months. But I dare say she has produced 2 superstar wonder babies. I mean, let's remember that Archie's first word was crocodile, followed by Grandma Diana, followed by onomatopoeia, followed by anti-disestablishmentarianism, and that he has a full library that he whizzes through on a daily basis because he can already read. Let's not forget those big up false claims. And so maybe Lily is very advanced. Who knows? She might have been born with teeth. And maybe that's why Megsy baby had to stop breastfeeding her, and so everything shrank. Who knows where the truth lies with that woman? It really is ridiculous, and quite frankly, what she thinks makes for interest, makes for speculation, but not interest. And actually, I have begun to find very tiresome and odious. Because, you know, as I used to say in relation to my mother, it's very boring when every day somebody decides they're going to be so exciting that they're just going to scramble your brains. It's not interesting. It's boring. Daisy Sunshine says, oh, Daisy Sunshine, I hope you're not related to Ken Sunshine, of Sunshine Sacks. So, 5 friends all independently contact the same magazine around the same time with the same magically gained info from the info fairy. Who doesn't find that suspicious right from the start? Daisy Sunshine, that is a very good question. I think you should address it to Lord Justice Warby. Well, actually, no, because he has nothing to do with it. I think you should address that observation to the 3 appeal court judges who are handling the matter. Because it is quite mystifying that Mr. Justice Warby would have come to the conclusion that because Meghan was claiming to be an innocent, that she could have behaved in such a bizarre way and that it wasn't guilty as sin. Who ever heard of a woman writing a letter with those snake pit scythes that she adds on to things, thinking that it's calligraphy? It's not. It's just hideous and revolting and makes no sense. But it shows how pretentious and full of piffle she is. Who writes a 5-page letter to her father, so carefully scripted, in pages enumerated, with a lot of assistance from the communications director, and when her father doesn't act upon it, shares it with 5 friends who magically and innocently and off their own bat and without her knowledge all decide, we need to protect Meg. Meg's in need of protection. We need to protect Meg. Let's go to People magazine. What hasn't emerged is, do they even know each other? To what extent was there collusion? These are questions that hopefully will be answered at trial and won't be swept under the carpet. Mandy Fail says, Dear Lady C, do you think that she is sending a message to the royal family that if they don't play ball with them and give in to her demands, she will continue to plot and scheme with these farces in order to ridicule and cause the royal family further embarrassment? What next? Are poison rings going to be sent to the Christmas brand tub this year? Well, I think the short answer is yes. I think the royal family and their advisors would have to be very stupid to have not realized, and they did very early on, that Meghan is uncontrollable and uncontainable, and that she is going to do what she wants. She is like a juggernaut. She is like the Blitzkrieg, nuking Poland into submission. But they're not submitting. She's going to continue, and she would continue even if she got what she wanted, because in my considered opinion, her conduct shows that she is a malevolent, malignant personality who can only be destructive. I don't think for all the good ideas that she has, in quotes, that she is ever really constructive. I think she is a deeply malignant personality. Going off her conduct. The problem with any family in a situation like that is, how do you cope with it and try to bring it to a halt without stooping to the level of the gutter snipe who has dragged you down to the gutter and is playing with gutter tactics? That's their dilemma. And it's going to remain one until something gives. Let's see, something might give, you know. Maybe Meghan's intensity will devour her the way Evita's intensity devoured her. There's a type of vicious, malevolent, intense personality that ultimately devours itself. And my view is that Meghan is more than likely that personality type. Elegantia says, "Dear Lady C, would you please," and now we come on to the really interesting stuff. "Would you please enlighten us all as to your thoughts on the first episode of the BBC Two documentary, The Princes and the Press, as there is a great deal to unpick. Thank you. I enjoy your channel content very much." And there are a series of questions which are basically quite comprehensive. So if I may, I'm just going to read them and then answer. Okay? I might interject in the meantime, but basically I'm going to read the questions so that you know the terrain that's going to be covered, and I'm going to cover it. Yaroslava L says, "Dear Lady C, I'm hearing something about a documentary about the royal family, which concludes with Meghan Markle's lawyer saying that Meghan Markle is not a bully. Do you have anything to say about that?" I certainly do. "Supposedly the royal family is not pleased, and maybe we'll fight back in some way. What do you think is going on? Much love to you and adorable Mickey." Thank you, Mickey. Somebody sends love for you. Ilona Carl says, "Read the BBC. Harry and Meghan have started a war against the royal family." Well, they've been at it for quite a while, my dear. It's just becoming more and more apparent. "How terrible. British people, don't you have any say to defend your country and your royal family from crazies gone rogue, namely Prince Harry and co." And S. Hicks says, "Points to ponder. Why did proven liar and perjurer and Meghan BFF Omid Scobie and Meghan lawyer have segments in this BBC show? Why wasn't Harry also accused of being work shy, which he was? Seems biased and one-sided to me." Well, I'll pick this point up and then read the others, because this is not going to be the main body of what I have to say. Yes, they tried to make out that William was work shy when William was actually working as a rescue helicopter pilot and giving his salary to charity. But they didn't make out that Harry was work shy. Not Harry when he was strip poker in Vegas and bumming around, going from one holiday to another. Not Harry. No. Harry can't be work shy. Harry's married to a woman of colour. Harry's got colour by injection. So no, Harry can't possibly be work shy. Oh, no. Harry's everything fabulous. Yes, very one-sided. Very. AB says, just went on BBC website and did digital complaint about biased programme last night. Good. I hope others have done it as well. The Princes and the Press. Perjurer Scobie's allowed to talk. Her UK solicitor allowed to talk, but they did not allow the royal family to respond. Unprecedented complaint by the royal family today against the BBC bias. Well, if you've listened to me before, you know that I have been making the point that the BBC is not only biased, but that they are biased against monarchies. They have two crowns to their credit that I can think of immediately: the Emperor of Ethiopia and the Shah of Persia, neither of whose crown would have fallen without their active collusion and assistance. Sharon R. says, the BBC is obviously angry at Prince William over the statement he gave on the deceptive Martin Bashir being caught lying to his mother when she was vulnerable to gain her trust. This BBC documentary sounds like Harry wrote it and is complaining about his family, but it's the BBC's doing. There is something in there about Prince William avoiding work when he was a teenager. I hope that they are providing an objective view of the work Prince William has done in the last 20 years, since he wasn't a teenager. Is this a trash piece or is it objective? What happened to the news being objective and showing both sides of the situation? This is exhausting and it makes you not want to watch the news. Well, all these questions cover terrain that is worth covering. The interviewer, Amol Rajan, born Varadara Rajan in Calcutta, India, 38 years ago, is the BBC media editor and has been since 2016. Mr. Rajan, as he has now called himself, was previously at the Independent under the aegis of Yevgeny Lebedev. I've known Yevgeny since he was a teenager. He owns the Standard and he owns the Independent. His father was a KB chief in London. They made themselves a very great deal of money with the downfall of communism. I actually didn't see them doing very much work. So I would imagine that somehow it was called nepotism and favoritism. But they are ace opportunists. They are people who, no matter who is in power, they turn their coat and adjust their principles so that they will be power brokers. Yevgeny is a frank power broker. And because politicians are rarely afraid of the press, they have made it clear to him that he has power over them and he takes advantage of it. This is the atmosphere in which Rajan started his career. He is an avowed Republican who regards the royal family as absurd, which begs the question, why is the National Broadcasting Media Division headed by an anti-monarchist pro-Republican? How sensible would it be for the Pope to decide. He was a Pocomania specialist and didn't want to be bothered with the teachings of the Catholic Church, but was going to beat the Pocomania drums and do obia and all those African and West Indian witchcraft rites that are so prolific in the West Indies, Africa, and certain states of America. Wouldn't people scratch their heads and say, excuse me a second, why is, or even not the Pope, a cardinal, any cardinal, how would it be if President Xi announced that he is now a devout monarchist and wishes to turn China into a hereditary monarchy? But we have our national broadcaster, and we are a monarchy. We are a monarchy by common consent. This monarchy was restored. We are a monarchy by common consent. And yet, what do we have? We have this young man who has been given a beautiful life here, great opportunities, done well for himself in this country. And I speak as someone who's also an immigrant. He's an immigrant and I'm an immigrant. My father's family were immigrants in Jamaica as well. In fact, ultimately, everybody was an immigrant in Jamaica. Just that my father's family were recent immigrants from only a century and a bit ago. We always understood that it was our duty to have respect for the culture and the country that had hosted us. How much respect is this country being shown? But of course, the BBC is a rabidly anti-monarchist organisation. And I personally think something ought to be done about them. I think they should lose their public funding and cease being the national broadcasting company. Let's get to the interview itself. Mr. Rajan has said that the media are a propaganda outlet for the monarchy. Mr. Rajan, who has worked in both print and broadcast, will know that that is a lie, a mischievous lie, but a lie. As I went to great pains to explain to people in Meghan and Harry the real story, because it was important that people understood the relationship, the symbiotic relationship between the British royal family and the British media, and to an extent just the media generally. It is a relationship that suits both participants. And no, the media are not a propaganda outlet for the royal family. It is true that the media of their own accord will often suppress stories that are unfavourable to the royal family, because as I've said before, Robert Jobson once said to me when I said, how can you guys be telling such lies about Diana? And he said, well, you know, George, if we didn't, nobody would want to read the papers, because people wouldn't like her anymore, because the truth was they would dislike her once they knew the truth. So that's not a propaganda outlet. That is the newspapers and the media protecting their interests by putting a positive spin, in much the same way that the BBC puts a positive spin upon everything that the Labour Party or any left-winger does, and then puts a negative, or at the very least a neutral spin upon anything that a centrist or a right-winger does. So that right there is a lie. Then, of course, we had to get into the claims of racism. You have Amol Rajan, who's Indian. You have Meghan Markle, who's mixed race. Not that she ever claimed to be or looked it, and still doesn't unless she does her, dance routine when she's going to darken up for something. But certainly the features that were once sub-Saharan African have been erased very carefully. But nevertheless, everybody knows she's a woman of colour. Then you had Rachel Johnson, who is the Prime Minister's sister, and quite frankly, somebody that I have absolutely no time for. She is so cheap and vulgar and always grabbing for attention and always eyeing what's the latest way to position herself so that she will be relevant. Just disgusting woman. There she was making stupid claims about racism that she had written 4 years ago, praising the marriage, that it was bringing exotic DNA into the royal family, and that was both eugenicist and racist. Well, I don't think Rachel Johnson can know the meaning of the words racist or eugenicist. First of all, Prince Harry is the one who said that the good thing about marrying Meghan was that he'd breed out all that red-haired, pasty-coloured gene in the family. So he's the one who was being eugenicist, if anybody was. And why is it racist to say that somebody is bringing exotic DNA into the royal family when they are? I mean, has anybody bothered to look up the meaning of the word exotic? Because what the dictionary tells you it means is unusual and exciting because of coming or seeming to come from far away, especially a tropical country. What's racist about that? High praise indeed, I'd have said. And the thesaurus says, substitutes for the word exotic are unusual, rare, and uncommon. And Rachel Johnson herself is always going on and on about her exotic Muslim Turkish heritage. So, because it suited her to put the needle in and suck up and I'm the Prime Minister's sister, so I need to be very careful to just trash the establishment enough. I mean, spare me, madam. Try looking up the meaning of the word dignity and then try looking up the meaning of the word integrity. And you tell me if you feel you've lived up to either of those. Because, quite frankly, you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth at the same time and doing it mischievously and odiously. She then suggested that these days she wouldn't have written such stuff because she's now been educated, like Harry's been educated. He was trapped. He's now free to make an ass of himself. So she's been educated to now discover that maybe 20 people of colour or 50 people of colour in the world regards exotic as a substitute, a covert word for people of colour. Every word has covert meanings. I mean, grow up and have respect for the English language and don't pander to the prejudices of a few airheads. So, here we are now with Omid Scobie's, because of course no programme of this nature is going to be complete without the biracial, fully white Omid Scobie's, who clearly was either doing something to his skin in his early pictures because he was rather darker than he now is, or nowadays is heavily into the retinol, shall we say? The retinol? I hope it's not the nadinola. But whatever it is, even his eyes have changed colour. Not colour, sorry, shape. Even his eyes have changed shape. That's an accomplishment. How does that happen without the intervention of surgery? I'm just curious to know. Always claiming to be biracial, yet the giveaway was in the very programme. Amol Rajan was also, very interestingly, interviewing quite extensively Roya Nikah, who is the Persian royal correspondent for the Sunday Times and the Times. Scobie makes the point that he is the only royal correspondent of colour. Well, how is it that a half Scottish, half Persian journalist is a person of colour, but a full Persian, because the Persians are Caucasian, they're not, as the categorization would go, black. And then, in fact, the categorizations generally are Mongoloid and Negro. Mongoloids would be Indians and subcontinentals. So brown, and black would be sub-Saharan Africans. They're not. They are categorized as Caucasian, dark-skinned whites, but whites. So how is it that we have Mr. Scobie's complaining about he's the only royal correspondent of colour, and he's half Persian, but a whole Persian is not a person of colour. It shows that the man actually knows he is a pathological liar and a pretender of the highest order, and he is, because he perjured himself. He gave a witness statement claiming that he had nothing to do with Meghan and Harry and the book. Oh, no, no, no. And she gave the same witness statement, and now they both have to backtrack. What do we have here? Does it begin to shape up to you that what we have here is a concerted attempt for people with their own malicious agenda to play the race card, the colour card, and obviously the class card, to the detriment of the British royal family. If there was any doubt as to that, Amol Rajan then invited on Jenny Afia. I actually used to know one of the Afias. She actually interviewed me when I did my Diana book. A friend of mine had been married to her brother. They are a part African family. So I don't know if it's the same family. I didn't bother to ask, and I'm not going to bother to ask either. It's basically immaterial. But it does seem that yet again, and I say this as somebody who, although I was born British by nationality, I was not born in this country. And my father's family were emigres. I think it really is sick and nasty and destructive and mischievous when you get all of these people just cavalierly playing colour cards or class cards or both to enhance their prestige and further their ambitions at the expense of the well-being and the cohesiveness of this nation. I have spoken to people about this very carefully. Week before last, I had some friends of mine down here. She's English white, he's Jamaican black. And they back up everything I say. They have the most beautiful cafe au lait daughter, absolutely ravishingly beautiful. Now, she'd have made a good Duchess of Sussex. Not that she would have wasted herself on that flotsam and jetsam. But they give Meghan Markle's lawyer the opportunity to comment upon an ongoing investigation, which is a breach of protocol, a breach of ethics, and a breach of legal practice. You are not supposed to comment upon an ongoing legal investigation when you are a part of it or your client is the object of it. Yet there was Jenny Afia saying that Meghan has not been a bad employer, that Meghan has been falsely accused, but they didn't give the royal family the chance to have their lawyer on to comment. They didn't give the royal family the chance to see the show. They gave the royal family no chance to do anything except issue a statement which was tacked on at the very end, just before the credits rolled, basically deploring their violation, the BBC's violation of their rights and of accepted journalistic ethics and practice. I think, yet again, we have seen that the BBC is not fit for purpose. I would like to know who is going to have the courage to defund them. Because I certainly would be only too happy to sit on a committee that oversaw them or defunded them, because they don't understand that impartiality is everybody has an equal chance. They don't understand that freedom of expression is that each opposing viewpoint has its chance to be heard. They don't understand any of that. The only thing they understand is to push their anti-monarchist agenda. Well, they've succeeded with 2 imperial crowns. Let's see if they succeed with a 3rd former imperial crown. Because I can tell you something, it is their objective to bring down the monarchy, and they will keep on at it, either until they succeed or until they are coerced to treat the monarchy with the respect that it is due. Now, I'm not saying that somebody can't be a pro-Republican. I am saying that it's farcical to have the Pope as the chief rabbi or the head mufti. That's what I'm saying. I think it's farcical. They need to get their ducks in a row. And if they don't, they need to be made to get their ducks in a row or to be shut up, if not shut down. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. If you have liked this, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions coming in. This can't be done without you. God bless and goodbye.